All right, so turning now to Memphis, Tennessee, where the fallout continues following the deadly beating of Tyre Nichols. Over the weekend, we saw mostly peaceful protests nationwide after Memphis police released body cam video of his arrest. We want to warn you, we are going to show some of that video, and it is very difficult to watch. 5 of the officers involved have been fired and charged with murder. 4 others who arrived on the scene, including 2 firefighters, are also under investigation. In a press conference Sunday, Memphis NAACP President Van Turner Jr. called for more action.
Yes. We do not need to let Tyre Nichols' death be in vain. We need a bill passed, and we call on Governor Bill Lee. We call on the Tennessee General Assembly to pass the Tyre Nichols Criminal Justice Reform Bill. We don't want anybody else to die at the hands of officers who've gone out of hand, who've gone too far, killing someone, and just because they could, just because they have a badge and a gun.
CBS News correspondent Omar Villafranca is joining us now from Memphis with more. Omar, good to see you. You are in Memphis right now. What has the mood been like over the weekend?
Well, the people here in Memphis, after the video came out Friday, there were protests, but really all weekend they've been processing what they saw. The police chief, the family, the attorneys for the family were all warning them the video was horrible, and it absolutely was worse than what they were told about. And they've been processing it. There have been protests that have been peaceful. There have been rallies that have been peaceful. But now they're still saying, even when they march, they're focused not just on protesting and rallying, but calls to justice and following through with this process.
So Memphis, as a city, has been part of several demonstrations throughout history. You were able to actually speak to a church pastor about the significance. I want to play some of that conversation.
From the sanitation strike,
correct,
to what happened at the Lorraine Motel with Dr. Martin Luther King, what is this a new moment for Memphis?
It may be. It may seem as a new moment, but it may be an old issue dressed in new clothes, and we have to. I think we have to recognize it as that.
There was a lot of national media that were here concerned what's going to happen in Memphis. A lot of people were worried.
Correct.
Were you ever worried? You know your community.
I wasn't as much worried about how we were going to respond. I think the way the chief of police, the district attorney, the way they handled all of this and kind of made sure that things were in place, it was with tremendous speed that the officers were fired, and then the charges was brought against them.
You think that helped?
I thought all of that helped, and when on the other evening when the tape came out and they showed it, I didn't think that there would be an uprising, because it appears to me justice is beginning to take place. The process is beginning to take place.
And the lack of the wheels of justice moving, is that what usually would frustrate people?
Correct.
That's very, very interesting. What actions are church leaders calling for in the wake of Tyre Nichols' death? And what are they prepared to do? What are they telling their congregation?
Well, they want accountability, and it's one thing to hear it from the family and the protesters and the marchers, but he had also mentioned in our conversation that they do have the ear of the community, not just the congregants, but all the pastors and priests who talk here in the area know that they have the attention of the police. And in fact, in this process, police were reaching out to church leaders, and the church leaders were saying it was in an effort for transparency, but also they were leaning on the church leaders to help provide calm in this. It's not the job of the church leaders to do that at all, but they were doing it. But in turn, when the church turns around and asks for justice and more transparency and to follow through, that also puts pressure on the police department. Listen, members of the police department are members of these churches. So to not only hear it at work, but also hear it in the pulpit, that carries weight, especially in a town like Memphis.
Yeah, that's a really good reminder. Omar, thank you very much.